Okay, here we have the poster for the public forum we ran a couple of weeks ago about smart meter towers in the Shire of Yarra Ranges. And many of these towers are already up, and so we're going to talk about some of the effects. Now let's go to this little animation, the scale of the universe. You can look this up on the internet, and it's very powerful. Press the start button and it'll bring up the human being. Now everybody's talking about the possible effects of radiation damage on a human, and this animation starts with the human from 1 or 2 meters tall. But let's go down into the DNA of a human, right? So we've got to zoom in here. We get past the basketball, past the mouse and the egg and the coffee bean and the ant. Keep going. Yeah, we're down to 0.001 meters. Smallest thing visible. And it's still going back down through the chromosomes. Still not there. There's the transistor gate. Yeah, very close to the DNA. Okay, so we're talking about low level effects. The high level effects, which specify the standards used for wireless radiation, work on thermal heating effects only. They don't take into account the very low level effects which could be damaging the DNA chains here. Now when a human is fully grown, they've got a lot of DNA, right? And it may be able to tolerate a lot of damage and still function, right? But let's take this further back now. The one thing that people are not talking about is what happens at the embryonic level. Now, so we've got to zoom back here, and the first item we're going to find is the human sperm cell. It's down to 1 micrometer here, and a human sperm cell is about 25 micrometer. So my guess is a little bit bigger than a cell nucleus shown here. All right, so if we still go further, close to that, or much larger, is the human egg cell. Right, so at these very, very low levels, any damage to the DNA of either the sperm cell or the human egg cell that young ladies carry around, human egg, is going to amplify. And how many times will it amplify? Let's go up the scale now. Yeah, we're at the 0.001 meter size, going past the ant, back up to the size of a human. Right, so you're talking about tens of thousands of times size difference from the human egg cell to the human. And so when the sperm connects with an egg, and if the egg has been had low level radiation put on it, it's probably been damaged, and so it's going to amplify. That damage is going to amplify tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times perhaps. If we look at it from the mass point of view, the mass of a fully grown human compared to one single egg cell is trillions of times larger, right? So the amplification effect of the damage to the DNA is huge, and that's why we're going to end up with deformed children if we allow this to continue. All right, so if I go back to our slides, this is a report, a collection of reports. Now don't tell me that there's no peer-reviewed scientific information about this. There's plenty of it. The Bio Initiative report has been going for a number of years. they've collected about 1,800 or so new studies reporting abnormal gene transcription. And the levels they're talking about, which do damage to the embryonic cells, are about 3 microwatts per metre squared. And the mobile phone, it's allowed to have 2 watts per metre squared, so about 1 million times greater. Alright, let's go on. And this is kind of an anecdotal description of the damage at the embryonic cells. The plants here on the left had no Wi-Fi. The plants on the right had Wi-Fi, and they couldn't even germinate. They're dead, right? And the children did this experiment. Now, what's wrong with the scientific community? Why hasn't it done a similar experiment like this? Now, I have looked on the web to try and back up this information, and I haven't found a great deal. It's just a repeat of the same story, but I haven't found anything to discredit it either, right? So that's the effect on life at the embryonic level. And if we go on from there, it gets worse. This is a hillside in Italy with lots of towers, and these are the animals that live around the towers, right? So the towers have been up since 1986, and it's enough time for a lot of deformities in the animals to become apparent. All right, so that's pretty disfigured. That's a pretty sad case. Yeah, the rabbit's got a huge club foot. And the dog has got some growth coming out here, and there's cats as well. Almost every type of animal. The chickens can't even walk. And this is very odd growth in the calf. And this happens to be a building on the way that we see on the way to Melbourne. It's full of towers. It's a retirement village, and this is how we treat our elders. So there's the full collection. And what I could say about this is, well, let's start substituting each one of those deformed animals with a child. Now, what's that child going to say when it looks you in the eye and say, well, Mum, why didn't you do something about this when you knew this was going to happen? Let's think about that. This is a translation of the video that shows the Italian story. Right? So because it's in Italian, we got it translated, and the story tells us that up to or over 50% of the population suffer from insomnia, anxiety and depression, especially high rates in children. The EU does acknowledge that surveys show that electromagnetic fields do affect the DNA of chromosomes. So this is of great concern, obviously, to this community, and we're heading that direction. You can look the video up, electrosmog in Italy. Now we've come home, right? This is the Yarra Ranges Shire. This is a brand new smart meter tower in Montrose, right? It wasn't there 2 months ago. Nobody told anyone, that is residents and shopkeepers, that this was going up. And they've got a range of about 50 kilometres, right? So it's not going to be much different to these Italian towers. And of course there's Mount Dandenong TV towers in the background. Here's another one. This is in Mount Evelyn, close to the shopping precinct, and of course there's residential all around here. The one on the left is a mobile phone tower which has been there for a long time. The one on the right is another smart meter tower. It's only been there for 2 months. And the Shire is making the excuse that because of the Telecommunications Act, we don't need to give these guys approvals. Well, come on. Reading our meter, our electricity meter usage is not an essential service. It never has been. The old way has served us very well for decades. And to put this under the telecommunications essential services precinct is just a slander to me. And let's go on. That's the same tower. Like I said, only 2 months old. Nobody was informed about it. It just went up. Another one in Bayswater. Could be a combined smart meter, mobile phone, and of course Mount Danny on the background as well. So these things are everywhere. And here I'm showing the Yarra Ranges Shire Council agenda, 26th of February 2013. And it's saying evidence of health risks posed by radio frequency emissions associated with living near a telecommunication facility has not been substantiated. Now come on. Further down, health risks posed by radio frequency emissions associated with living near a telecommunication facility are dealt with under federal legislation. Accordingly, wording associated with potential health risks of telecommunication facilities has been removed from the revised policy. Right? So the Yarra Ranges used to have a health policy in the telecommunications section, and it's been removed. Now, where do we take this? Councils are supposed to act in the best interests of the people, and I can't see that there. Let me go on to our final slide. Well, not quite final. Back to the dangers of Wi-Fi and the assault on children in schools. Well, guess what? The state government is rolling out Wi-Fi in schools. Our council is in the position to contact those schools and ask them, or to inform them of those dangers, and I think they have a responsibility to do that. There's some very good websites for this information. Wi-Fi in Schools, Australia.org, and they've got some very good videos there. They've also got some of the standards there. From what I can see, the standards in Australia are 50 to 2 million times greater than they are in Europe, in some places in Europe. The non-consent forms, you'd find that on citizensforsafetechnology.org. So if you're a concerned parent, you can fill out one of these forms and take it to your school, and I implore you to do that. For the plants story, look it up, Google search plants won't grow near Wi-Fi. And this is the form, the non-consent form, on dirty electricity and electromagnetic radiation, which you can submit to your school. And there's a very good little summarised pamphlet talking about the wireless radiation effects on children, how it's been banned in many European countries. On the bottom here, the local authority, the Arpanza authority, which regulates the levels, is saying, recommends that parents encourage their children to limit their exposure. That includes wireless devices and wireless computer networks, and yet they're being installed. Makes you wonder whether they are acting in the best interest. Now this final slide was a bit of a surprise. I discovered it in a book, Back to a Future for Mankind, and it talks about the rapid rise of immune-related diseases ranging from cancers, brain disturbances, epilepsy, social disorders, or just simple apathy and psychotic behaviour. The conclusion he makes from all this is that if we keep putting more and more electromagnetic emanations into the atmosphere, one day all immune systems will collapse. Humans, animals, plants and all forms of life will die out. Sounds extreme, but is that potential there if we just keep putting it out? Something to think about. Thank you.